Hello,
Hello.
welcome to Collaboration Conversations. This is a new series of conversations that USITT is beginning to work on, where we bring the voices of directors and designers together to share their collaboration. Often designers love to get together and talk about collaboration, but within that collaboration, we forget that it's really the director who's often helping us and driving us and making that sort of beginning kick. And when that collaboration is really strong, it's a great partnership. I'm going to bring into the stream Yolanda Williams. Yolanda is one of our hosts. She had some back-to-back meetings, and so I'm helping get things going while she's coming in.
Hi, Yolanda.
Hi.
Hi, Yolanda.
Hi, everyone.
Before we begin our conversation today, for the folks who are joining us in our live streams, we have our first guest to discuss this partnership, Elisa Bocanegra and Christopher Scott Murillo. Chris is a scenic designer, and Elisa is the head of Hero Theater and a creator there. Before they introduce themselves, I want you all to know, if you're watching on our various streams, that you can post questions in the chat in YouTube and in Facebook and in LinkedIn. Those will scroll up for us, and we'll be able to take questions through the entire thing. And as you can say, we've already got some folks who are sending out shouts to you, so we'll bring those up for you to be able to be there. We've almost got Yolanda back to her office, so I am vamping like a mad stage manager here. And to begin with, if I could ask Elisa and Chris, if you would take a moment and introduce yourselves.
Sure. Let me go first.
Yeah, Elisa, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Elisa Bocanegra. I'm artistic director of Hero Theater in Los Angeles, where I'm also the founder. I've been an actress for a little over 20 years now, more than 20 years in the American theater. Puerto Rican, from New York, New Yorican, straight up proud. I have also, I founded Hero Theater 9 years ago, and I would say about 4 years ago, I began directing. And when Yolanda approached me about being part of this, I was very proud to introduce her to my colleague, Christopher Scott Murillo.
Thank you, Elisa. So I'm Christopher Scott Murillo. I'm a scenic designer. As mentioned, I'm also an artist and educator based in Los Angeles. I've been teaching for about 7 years. I'm currently at Loyola Marymount University. I've been designing for quite some time, mostly in the Southern California region. In recent years, I've been really interested in new work that is sort of changing the landscape of American theater, doing brand new work by BIPOC artists featuring diverse casts. Most of that work has happened here in LA, and that is how I ended up working with Elisa at Hero Theater Company. She brought me in fall, I believe it was 2019, to do a production with her. But we've known each other, and we've known each other's work and names for quite some time. So I'm thankful to be here. Thank you to all of you.
So I can now introduce Yolanda Williams. Yolanda is a member of the board of USITT and a director. And I love live stream. The live part of it is so exciting. But I think you still have sound, Yolanda, while we work on getting camera back.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, but there we go.
Yeah, I'm here.
So I think we can start the conversation.
I know my camera keeps going in and out, so I'm trying to. Oh, David left. I'm trying to get it set up on my computer because it keeps going in and out. I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Yolanda Williams. I am a director and member of the board of USITT. And again, I just want to welcome you all to Collaboration Conversations, where we explore the artistic partnership between director and designer. I also want you all to know that you can post your comments in whatever service you're using, and we'll respond to them either live or we'll respond to them in the chat. Okay?
Yes.
Welcome, my friends. How are you all doing?
So good. It's really good to see you, Yolanda.
Oh, it's good to see you all.
Before we went live, I had I told David a little story about you, which I wanted to share, which was that when I was the recipient of the TCG Leadership U grant, I took some time off to tour the HBCUs along with my friend Lauren Turner of No Dream Deferred in New Orleans, who I know is a mutual friend of yours. And you welcomed us to Jackson State University, where I met my longtime mentee, Joseph Henderson, who's now on the leadership team of Hero Theater. So I have a lot to be grateful to you for, Yolanda. I agree, Patricia Garza. Yolanda rocks.
Oh, thank you. And that's wonderful to see you again. I can't wait to be able to be together and give you a hug and everything.
Please.
And Christopher, it's so nice to meet you. We've only been talking through emails, but it's great to see you. I feel like I know you. I feel like we've been friends for a while. So
likewise, Yolanda.
Welcome.
Thank you for bringing me into this. This is great.
Thank you. I was speaking with David and we're like, we need to have more conversations like this. So it's great to have you all. So let's go ahead. Let's just start it out. Okay. So I want to know, how did you guys begin to collaborate together? What was that?
Well, I had seen Christopher's work throughout the years as an actress. And I always, when I see BIPOC folks, in the theater, I'm like, hello, who are you? When can we begin to work together? So I was a fan of Christopher's work. And I was really excited to be able to have a show that had an ample budget to bring on Christopher. And I wanted someone, it was important to me to have a designer of color. It was important to me to have someone who was Southern California based, which is where my theater company is based and where our story was based in the play. And I just had an instant connection with Christopher.
Likewise, and like Elisa was saying, we had crossed paths in different spaces, her on stage, me, working as a designer. And then one day she sent me this email saying, I saw your work. I believe at the time it was a production of Anna in the Tropics. And she said, I saw your work. We should work together. I have this amazing project coming up. And I said, you know what? Yes, let's do it. I don't know why we haven't worked together yet in this capacity, director, designer. And we dove in, jumped right in, and we started collaborating at Hero Theater Company, which is Elisa's theater company, on a production called Troy.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful. That's how the best collaborations start. That is exactly how they start. So let's go ahead and get into it. Can you guys just kind of tell me, describe your collaboration relationship through that process?
Go ahead, Christopher. You can start with that.
I'll be more specific. How did it start? How did that conversation, knowing that you two have not worked together before, how did it start? What did that initial conversation look like? Like the first concept meeting?
So I think, for me as a designer, anytime I engage in a new collaboration, I always like to do some research on who I'm going to work with. So obviously I knew Elisa in passing. So we had a phone conversation where we literally just chatted and got to know each other. I also looked back on sort of what the work of Hero Theater Company was, what they were doing, what their goals as a company were. And those really resonated with me. I'll let Elisa elaborate more on, the Hero Theater Company and the goals of the company. But those, after reading all of those, they resonated with me strongly. And so I was like, this seems like a worthwhile endeavor. I want to collaborate. I always, like I said, I like to get to know the people I'm going to work with. And usually it's sort of this gut feeling, if I have a good feeling about it, if I feel like I can share space and my ideas are going to be listened to and we're going to collaborate well, I dive in head first and I give it my all in that collaboration. So that's how it started from me on my end.
Yes. I just remember seeing Chris's initial ideas And I actually, for undergraduate, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. So I've always been fascinated with design and color. And Christopher was patient with me also, right? Because I've been 4 years directing, directing for 4 years. And I think there is a certain amount of things I'm not going to know. I'm going to be curious about and picky about and not picky about. But what I love about Christopher, and you're here, Christopher, so I just was that when I talked to you about the play, I told you it was a riff on the Trojan Women written by Amina Henry, and it was about women and homelessness in Los Angeles. And we have partnered with several women's shelters here in LA. We partner with 3 different ones to bring. The play was for the homeless community, really, for homeless women, and we brought them into our theater space, provided private transportation. It was a big deal for me to work on this because I too, for a period of my life, when I was younger and I was raised by a single mom, we spent a short time homeless. And Amina Henry, who's our wonderful company member and resident playwright, she's first generation Jamaican. I'm first generation Puerto Rican. So we connected so deeply on the fact that we were raised by these incredible moms coming to this country who had gone through so much and had lost so much. So when I talked to Christopher about this, it was really interesting. It was like, how do we take Trojan women, right? The world of Trojan women, but also how do we how do you say it? Like present authentically what Los Angeles looks like, what that landscape looks like for a single mother, a Black single mother about to lose her home. ¿Verdad? And the residents of this, I know in New York you said like tenements, the residents of these complexes, ¿verdad? Who were Latino, Latinx folks and Black folks. How do we bring their truth out also in this design element without losing the fact that the origin of the story is Trojan women, right? So I'll let you go on that.
Yeah, and that, when you came to me with that concept, going back to what you said, finding a designer who was based in Southern California. I live in Los Angeles in basically the dead center, a park called Mid-City. And so a lot of the descriptions that were provided by the playwright for the design and where this play is taking place in LA, those were up the street, down the street from where I live. So I can, literally walk around and do what I call reality research and see this in real life. And so that was a great, it really benefited the design process because I could, take real photographs, do my own research, bring it all to Elisa. And we had a very real conversation about what we wanted the world to feel and look like. And I remember Elisa at one point, given that the play, it deals with homelessness in Los Angeles. It said, our patrons, when they come to our theater, are going to see that outside. How do we recreate that in the theater in a way that juxtaposes it for a dialogue to happen, right? For that for them to connect it and say, how do we change this situation? How does this affect me? How can we do better? So.
The other thing that I thought was we talked about neighborhoods in LA a lot, right? Christopher, there was we were also open to okay, if this doesn't look right, it still has to fit within the world that the women who are coming to see the play, the residents of these transitional shelters who had just, been living on the streets, that they saw themselves, that they saw the stories where they were from. That was so important. And what was amazing was especially when the Downtown Women's Center and the residents of the Alexandria House came, that they cried and they cheered and they were in their world right away. Walking into the theater space, when we were downtown, they just immediately, Christopher's work, it made them feel connected to the play. For me, it's not important to, have the cushy subscribers come. That's not the kind of theater that I run. It's just not what I do because I really want to give voice to the voices and give people opportunity to feel themselves when they enter a space, a theater space. And I felt that Christopher's work was inviting, truthful, painful, and it was open. It had an openness to it, like the Trojan women, kind of like that landscape. It felt a little bombed out, but in that way that Los Angeles does. That you cannot tell sometimes the areas of LA how poor they are because you're like, dang, it's still a palm tree outside. Wait a minute, this looks good. You know, you can't really tell, but I feel like Christopher's work really captured the intricacies and the gradations of Los Angeles, and I love that. And we're gonna hopefully work on the next, because we're gonna be partnering with the same shelters and doing a play in 2022 that is also for the homeless community about Black women and love that Amina is penning, and I'm hoping that Christopher designs that one.
I am also hoping Christopher designs that one.
Yes. Yes.
So it sounds like you have had a very open, communicative collaboration where you kind of off of each other. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the challenges that rose up with collaborating with someone and figuring all those ins and outs of, you know, when you put two artistic people together, everything is not, I mean, in a dream world, everything would go wonderful. We'll all say yes to our ideals. But reality is, you know, there are some challenges that pops up. So can you all kind of talk about some of those challenges that popped up and how you went through those challenges, come up on the other side of those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, Christopher, you can riff more on this. The one thing I said was the next time we do our play and I invite Christopher in, more resources, right? More, you know, resources towards props, more resources so that our designer is not feeling like I have this scope, you know, in my mind and I'm putting it on the page and it's not actually something that we have to still cut corners in a sense. So having more resources is kind of, for the most part, I thought it went really smooth. I mean, Chris, you could, I thought it went really well. But I think that's the one thing that I'm like, I want more of what Christopher asked for that we couldn't provide this time, right? And he was so amenable. And also I do have to point out before we switch gears and I let him give him the platform, is that it meant a lot to me that Christopher, like most designers, come to that first read to hear the play. Christopher, you also came and you had feedback on the play itself, which was still in development. And that was huge for me to hear your perspective, because you don't really get that. I mean, 20 something years of working in the theater and as an actress, I've never seen that with the designer, that they're like going in and giving an input about the play and, you know, and feedback on my work, which was so important for me. It felt collaborative.
Yeah, absolutely, Elisa. You know, when you invited me into the space and to have conversations about doing this play, one thing that always goes through my mind, I stop and I remind myself, I need to listen and actually listen and hear what my collaborators are saying. That's something that in my practice, I always do to make sure that I'm understanding, A, why are we doing this work? Why is the work important? How do my ideas blend with these ideas of another artist? So listening is a huge thing that I do and I practice. And I know that may seem very simple, but it's listening, but really listening, right? You want to really listen to your collaborators. And I know, Elisa, you mentioned resources, but, you know, me as an artist, you know, I have done a lot of new work in the last, I want to say 5 to 6 years. With Playwrights Arena, which is another company based here with native voices at the Autry. So I think I have a little bit more experience sort of navigating the new work environment and working with playwrights and knowing when a note is to be given, especially when it relates to design, because chances are if I have a question, it's because I want to make sure I'm telling the story correctly, right? And supporting it with the visuals. So if I don't ask the question, then it's, you know, that visual down the road may be wrong for that particular story and play because I didn't ask. So that's one thing that when I venture into a new work, working with a director who welcomes that feedback and that collaboration, which Elisa does, her rehearsal room is very collaborative. You know, she wants feedback from everybody. And I was so, you know, that energy I think is really great. sometimes it surprises people, but I was like, this is great. We can have a conversation.
My rehearsal room is a Puerto Rican home. Like the food, it's like there's tons of food. There's a lot of love and laughter, and I just let people be themselves. And sometimes that's wonderful and harmonious, and other times it's not. But then again, that's a Puerto Rican home. So I feel like yeah. Go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, no, you brought up. I was just going to talk about the food. I remember first rehearsal, we all came in, and Elisa, the director producer, came in with like 2 trays of food for everyone to enjoy while we had the first read through. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is a different environment, and I feel so welcome, especially being so new. I wasn't a company member. There were company members in the room in the play, and right off the bat, I felt like I was welcome into this, I'll say family, because we were sharing space, sharing food, and sharing ideas. So it was a great welcome.
So this is like, first of all, I can't wait to work with you because that sounds amazing. I've never been given like Puerto Rican food as I work on the show. So
Yolanda, cooking for like 2 days before rehearsal. Okay. I was looking at 2 days and looking at like color swatches, right, Chris? Because I was like thinking about the food color.
Yeah.
But that brings up something else. Working with other BIPOCs as opposed to working PWI institutions and companies. What was some of the main differences for you, Chris, working with someone that is part of the BIPOC community as opposed to working in some of the PWIs?
I think for me, it's feeling like you're not the only one, right? And I don't know if that makes sense, but walking into a room and seeing a diverse group of artists working together, and that I think takes some of, I don't want to say pressure, but it eases me into a collaboration. I will say, I'll speak frankly, when I do, walk into a room where I'm the only person of color, it changes the dynamic slightly, or the only BIPOC artist, because then it makes me feel slightly tokenized, and I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also is my voice really being listened to? It goes back to that listening component of my collaboration process. So that's one thing, when you walk into a space where everyone is diverse, there's a lot of backgrounds there, there's a lot of stories to be told. I think I'm just put more at ease. And that was something that I found entering this rehearsal room and this collaboration with Elisa.
No, go ahead, Elisa.
Well, I spent so many years as an actor working in predominantly white institutions and being injured, frankly. There's no, I'm still processing that. And I think, now in our recent movement behind more equity in theater, it's a lot of things, a lot of wounds open up again, right? And for me, people are like, don't you want to work at a bigger institution? Don't you want to work? And I've taken a lot of conversations, but it's not about that. To me, it's about creating a safe space. And until I feel like and I'm not saying that some of these institutions can't become eventually a safe space. That certainly has not been my experience to date with most of them, right? And some way, somehow we're getting injured in those rooms. And, it's how can an artist really maximize, how can they stretch their wings if already you're feeling like your wings have to be like this when you walk in a room because you look different, or because all the people in power are white, so you can't have your grievances, you have to be kept inside. And what that does to you as an artist, how are you supposed to create?
Yeah, that brings up working in BIPOC versus BIPOC and culturally specific theaters versus PWI. We face a lot of challenges, and you've both talked about the challenges, being the only one, feeling like somebody, like you're with family, people people who look like you, and then being injured. Is that one of the reasons Hero was created?
Yes. Yes. I was playing Olympia Dukakis's maid at the Roundabout Theater Company, and we shared a dressing room, And she was like, why do you look so damn sad all the time? I said, I don't know. I mean, I'm working on the roundabout. Ain't I supposed to be happy? Like, as a Latina getting to work here, I was supposed to be happy. But I wasn't, because I had so much trauma, right? From years of working in these regionals. And she said, listen, you're going to start a theater company and you're going to help people like you, And I was like, well, how? And so my first 2 years were training with her, because way before she had won the Academy Award, she had her own theater company in New Jersey for like 22, 23 years. And so my first 2 years were really learning the ropes from her. And then, it was interesting because I loved it. I loved arts leadership in a different way. I was like, wow, this feels right to me. It felt like the right fit, just because also when you're an actor in the room for so many years, you see so much, right? So what exactly you don't want to do. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, we're all a work in progress, right? But I value my artists, even when my artists, say they're not, don't feel right about something, then I look within myself and say, how can I be better? How can I do things better? How can I be a better, leader next time? So, it's a lot of a deep soul searching.
Yeah, I hear that, and I reflect on that, and I feel the same way. So we're gonna switch gears again. There's a lot to cover, so bear with us, audience, because we're trying to cover a lot of things. And don't forget that if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll answer them either in the chat, or we'll try to answer them as we talk. So feel free to ask anything you want to ask, or say anything, and we'll get to them. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about working while being in a pandemic. I know it's hard. It's a struggle. Finding ways to keep work, finding ways to keep that creative side of us alive, and finding ways to make money, honestly. Collaborating comes off a little bit different when we're in a pandemic. And although you guys have not collaborated during the pandemic, what are some of the issues that you think are arising in learning to collaborate during a pandemic?
I think one of the big things for me is not being able to share physical space with people and not being able to feel that energy in the room. I have done a little bit of work during the pandemic virtually, some Zoom recorded work, but I'm also prepping a show to potentially be filmed for streaming, and all of that work had to happen remotely. So I feel like it adds an additional layer of, or it complicates the process a little bit, and you lose some of the vibing off of each other, which I miss, frankly. I miss sharing space, being able to talk to people in real life, being able to touch scenery, things like that. A lot of times, especially nowadays, I'm fortunate enough to have a set being built right now, but I can't go there and look at it. It's pictures coming via email or video, which, yes, it does happen during normal circumstances, but I'm a designer that does like to actually see my work in person. And I think most designers are. You want to touch the thing you're creating. So I just miss sharing space, doing the work, telling stories, sharing the work with the live audience, feeling that energy. I'm thankful that right now I do have an academic job that's, getting me through. My students are a big inspiration right now. Them giving me the energy to, inspire, to continue the work. They're still very interested, but, that's sort of where I'm at.
At the start of the pandemic, kind of the height of it, we had an opportunity to collaborate with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival on a 12th night workshop. It was a translation of 12th Night by Allison Carey. And that was great to be able to connect with some of my company members who live in New York, in Atlanta. Something was still missing, right? Because we're theater folks. we're used to being in the same space with each other, that yummy space, you know. And we've done a couple of a few virtual events, readings, new works, but then I stopped and I said, I think this is going to make me nuts because I feel like I don't want to. I don't want to direct like this. This is not like I'm a theater. We're a theater company, you know. So I turned to back to new play development, which is something I'm very passionate about. And environmental work. I'm getting an MFA right now with Patrice Cullors' new program at Prescott College, an environmental and social justice performance practice. So I'm in school part-time. And then as part of that, Patrice has really helped awaken in me my passion towards environmental justice, especially with elder Latinx communities. My family in Puerto Rico, it's a travesty, really, what's happening to so many of us, you know, from marginalized communities because of the environmental crisis, and wanting to do more bilingual work connected to the environment in my community. So I've turned towards that. I started a new program called Nuestro Planeta, which is going to be a 10-year-long multimedia project that is going to be 4 to 5 plays we commission about the environment. And our first play takes place in Colombia, which a lot of people don't know is the second most biodiverse country on the planet, and it's Spanish speaking. So Brazil is the first. So Colombia is our first country, and I just commissioned a wonderful playwright named Diana Borbano, and we're going to be traveling to Colombia when this pandemic lifts a little bit. We just got us a travel grant to go.
So we've talked a little bit about the pandemic. We also need to talk about what's going on, especially in America today. The social injustice, the political injustice, the times we're living in. How has that, I guess what I'm trying to say is, how has that informed how you make decisions now as collaborators, and how much more do you want to collaborate, reaching across the aisle or reaching within to collaborate more? What kinds of projects do you want to do to reflect what's going on?
Well, Christopher, you want to?
Well, with this, you know, what's coincidental is about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, I had an own reflective internal conversation with myself relating to my story and the work I was doing. And I asked myself, what work is most important to myself? Where should I be putting my time, my energy, my talent? And that's really how I started in new work. And then when the movement started happening recently and all the different events of the last few weeks, that only tells me that I need to continue to do that work, and I need to do more of it. Because, you know, our BIPOC stories do matter, right? And I think we deserve a place at the table on that stage in the mainstream. And the only way we're going to get there is if we continue to develop these new plays with different perspectives that are outside of the stereotypes that are normally presented, and present them in spaces where people can see them. You know, theater, as we all know, is a great place to incite dialogue, you know, with an audience, with a base that's coming to see the work. With Elisa's company, you know, she brings people that directly relate to the work that's being produced. So having that shared dialogue, I think, is one way to move towards change and visibility. So for me, it's just continuing the work that I internally, you know, reflected on and started on a few years ago, but doing it even more so. And also recognizing the importance of that work and how important it is to you know, put my energy into developing stories that truly reflect American culture and society. So my work with, you know, Elisa Hero Theater Company, yes, that will be in my future. My work with Native Voices, you know, that will be in my future. I will continue to do that work. My work with Playwrights Arena, that will also be in my future. And anyone else who has, you know, the same goals as I do.
Yeah. It's interesting, the question that you ask, Yolanda, because so much of what happened last week in our country, and I told my friend this morning, I was like, deeply at a place of introspection. I was excited to be here today because I love you so much, right? Yolanda, you're a hero of mine. And
right back at you, girl.
Thank you. But it's that thing of like, we know that hate has existed. Come on now, right? But to see it displayed like that, and how I can make an active change with my artistry is something I know I'm going to be doing. A tangible, concrete answer is not something I can give you today because I'm internalizing still. It's been a lot, for all of us. For me, Hero Theater is a manifestation of my years throughout the theater. It's, a BIPOC company. Our company members are comprised, predominantly of Black actors, Afro-Caribbean actors, Latinx actors, Asian actors, and my artists are in pain, as I'm in pain, but seeing my artists, that's my family, like, right? And not being able to be in a theater space to create together, to heal together is infuriating. But I think sometimes when you go deep within, what can manifest from you as an artist is important poetry, and it's important for healing, and I'm excited about the work that we're going to be creating. This thing it's not going to knock us down. It's going to make us stronger, right?
I think what's going on is, one, terrifying and heartbreaking. At the same time, I see it as a time for us to really dig deep and really focus on change. Because if we keep going the way we're going, we already know what happens. History will just repeat itself. I can speak personally. I find myself finding it easier to say no to work that I know just does not fit with who I am. The younger me did not do that, because we were taught, say yes to everything. Say yes to everything. Who knows when your next chance? So my question to both of you is, in collaborating, when you just feel like, I know this hasn't happened with both of you, but with other people, have you felt like that this just might not be the collaboration I need to do right now? This might not be what is needed or what I can give. For our audience and for me, how do you say no? How do you say no without feeling this sense of, oh no, I might not get any more work after this? Like, how do you keep that integrity?
Yolanda, that's it's a great question, and something that I will say, I agree with you. I think as artists, we are taught to, when an opportunity comes, to just take it, right? To take the opportunity, because you never know when the next opportunity is going to come. I would say now in my career, I'm at a place where I am like you, where I'm starting to really think about what collaborations I enter into. Because what I'll throw out there is, every collaboration that you engage in at first is a risk, right? So you internally have to ask yourself, is that risk something I'm willing to put all of my energy in, venture into? Will it ultimately bring some sort of positivity to me as a person? That's what I ask myself. There are a couple sort of other things that I consider is like, what is the impact in the long term, right? Who will this story touch? I know you said, how do we deal with saying no, or how do we gracefully say no? For me, it's, I sat and I did a reflective exercise, and I know Patricia Garza is watching, but, she really helped me figure out, what my artist statement was. And really it's, I had to sit and reflect and say, this is what I want to do. This is the work I'm excited about. This is where I want to put my energy. And you have to stick to your artist statement, right? For me, that's how I know. It's like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is the work I need to be doing. This is what I should be doing. And, I'm also not saying that I won't do, a big musical or any of those things, because I still will, because those are curiosities of mine. I want to have those experiences, but the majority of my work is driven by my artistic passion, So I think if it comes down to me choosing between, a big flashy production, a big musical, a play that's been done 1,000 times, and a brand new work that's featuring a BIPOC story with a BIPOC cast, I'm more than likely going to choose that BIPOC story because that's new, that's refreshing, and that fuels my passion. So that's sort of how I navigate it. I hope that answered the question, but.
For me, I love that answer, Christopher. That was amazing. For me, I've been saying no to a lot of things because I started at the height of the pandemic to say yes and going, why am I doing this as an actor, ¿verdad? And also as a director too. And I want to put my energy and my time towards Hero Theater. It's so important for us to nurture the companies that we create. It's so important. It takes time. And so I'm an actress, predominantly an actress, but so I still get a lot of auditions that I turn down, and bless my agent who still stays with me. He's a strong Black man. That's why he gets me. He gets me on so many different levels. And I'm like, this is going to take too much time away from Hero. And it's also, what kind of work you want to be putting out there. It's different you as an actor. If you do a 1 or 2 day commercial shoot, you make your money, it goes right back into my company to commission artists to provide opportunity. And I think that's how I've been surviving saying no, is kind of seeing the end of the rainbow, right? Seeing that I'm going to have my company there. And I don't think before I started Hero 9 years ago, Yolanda, that I had that. It was so hard to say no to things. And I've got, I've had a very spiritual person too. I'm like, ooh, what you put out there is what you're going to get back. I've had to stop getting so scared of not having anything, because when you also grow up poor, you have that in your system. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be, it's like in your core, right? In your nervous system. Am I going to lose everything again? Am I going to be out on the streets again? And no, I've put enough good out there, and I have a community of friends and theater practitioners who become family, who I know are going to have my back always.
I love that. And knowing that I run a theater, I feel the same way. Like, it's like creating a family. And that's what real good collaborations do. Like, you come in maybe not even knowing each other, but you leave that saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait to work with this person again, because they become part of your tribe, your team, your core group of artists that you want to work with. So I am a big fan of affirmations and speaking that over our people that we love and people who we just appreciate. So what are some of the great things you like working about each other? Like, what do you love about that type of relationship that you guys are continuing to create for the project you worked on and for your future projects? Because you've already put it out there.
I keep telling Christopher, if you're available, you're going to get the first offer for this. So
yeah,
if you're available.
So this is a wonderful relationship. So just kind of speak on what do you love working with each other about? Like, what are those things that just draws you to each other?
I like Christopher's honesty. Christopher, you are so honest. And a very an eloquent no will come from Christopher, like, no. And I love that, right? Because I grew up in the Bronx, so I'm like, yes, bring the realist. You know what I mean? And then he's got this terrific smile and is talented, and I just really like working with Christopher so much. So I really hope that we can do it again with Amina's next play, because she'd be excited also to have the same team.
Thank you, Elisa. No, one thing for me, it's Elisa's excitement about everything. That sort of energy is really great to keep a project moving and developing and going. I'll never forget when the set first was being loaded in, Elisa walked in the room. She got so excited about a door being hung. And I've never had a director just like be so excited and happy that there was a door in the set. And I was like, this is somebody Yeah, and it was amazing to have that sort of energy for something which most people don't respond to, right? And I was like, okay, I was like, she appreciates the work that I'm doing down to its base level, right? The set is being screwed together and put in place, and she's so excited that it's here. And that's a great energy to have as a designer, to feel that.
And the lovely crew too. I loved everyone. And you know, Yolanda, when you have your own theater company, it's like getting to that point where, whoa, we have sets now, full sets, crews, we're there, right? It's not a curtain or a scrim, you know, just getting to that point itself just felt like, so it was overwhelming.
I feel that way. Like as soon as a wall, I'm like, is that a wall? Oh, we have a wall going up. Oh my goodness. It's a bare wall, not even painted or anything. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a wall. Look, everybody, there's a wall. And they're looking like, okay. But that's wonderful. So I know, Elisa, I know you work with younger students or artists that are just coming out of school. I know because you took one of mine.
Like everything to me, Yolanda. He is everything. Joseph.
Oh, I know he is.
Oh.
But for both of you, I guess, what are some of the things that young artists need to know when they're beginning their career about collaborating? You know, a lot of the times, like us, they might be afraid of saying no or speaking their mind. You know, a lot of the times we're taught, oh, just give the director what they want. And speaking as a designer and a director, you know, that's not always the case. But some younger artists are just not, I guess they just don't know how to speak up on what they see and relating that information. What kind of advice, both as a director and designer, could you give some of these young artists that are both directors and designers coming out, how to navigate that world?
You want to start, Christopher?
You know, for me, it's one thing I always teach in my classes is that whether you're an actor, a director, a designer, if you are telling a story, you owe it to that story that's being told to be as authentic as possible. So if there's a question where in your mind, whether it be, you know, you're acting or directing, designing, if something doesn't quite fit with that story or support the story being told, you should ask that question. Right? Don't be afraid to ask that question. Because there, you know, these stories that we're telling, there's something very precious about telling stories of people that are not ourselves, right? Whether the characters are real or not, we owe it as practitioners in design, directing, and acting to tell the stories authentically. So I would say, make sure you're being your most authentic self. And authentic, you know, on stage, backstage, in design, etc. The other thing, I always say to young artists just getting started, make sure the work you're doing makes you happy. You know, does it bring you joy? Is it something you feel passionate about? Do you feel fulfilled? And I know those are really big questions. And a lot of times as artists, it takes us years to figure out what really fulfills us. But I think it's worth starting that reflection and that dialogue with yourself as an artist early, because then you can figure it out sooner, right? I know that's something that I think initially when I ventured into the field coming out of undergrad, this was before I went to grad school, it was just, you know, going back to the conversation, take whatever work came your way. But I never once stopped to say or to ask myself, is this fulfilling my passion as an artist? It took me, you know, going through 3 years and then grad school. And then I stopped and I said, I need to have a conversation about the work that I'm doing and the energy that I'm putting out there. So that's one thing I would put that, you know, a little bit of advice for all those artists coming up and starting out.
The advice that I would give is love yourself. Love yourself enough to speak your mind and know that sometimes it's not going to come out the way other people sound, and that's okay. Honor where you're from, honor your origin. That's huge, because I know I see that in a lot of the young artists that I mentor. And I remember that from myself, is always feeling like I can't have my say because I sound different, or the person is going to receive it, right? We can't be responsible of the way the person receives it, but we can be responsible for loving ourselves and putting the word out there, the truth out there as we see fit. And knowing that we're going to find our group of people to work with, right? It might not be mainstream PWIs, right? ¿Y qué? ¿Verdad? Right? So honor your authenticity of self, and also patience with yourself and with others in the room too. If I could go back and turn back the clock, I'd probably have a lot more patience with directors, I would. But again, it's one of those things. It's like, it's a Puerto Rican girl from a certain socioeconomic background coming into these white regional theaters, already receiving so much marginalization. It was hard enough to get the job. Then when you get it, what kind of job it is, and they're expecting you to behave a certain way, it's too much pressure on yourself. So it's like, pour love into yourself and speak your mind and be authentic, because the right people will find you and want to work with you.
It's been pointed out that you guys are not only giving great advice for young artists, this is like great advice for anybody, and whether they're in this field or not. That's amazing advice that I think both of you, that we all need to take heed of and follow. Yeah, I'm reflecting now on some of the things that I need to not necessarily change, but how I want to move forward. And I think that's what it's about. How do you want to move forward? You can't go back and change the past, but how do you want to move forward, and the types of relationships and collaborations that you want to build from this point on. I don't know about anybody else, but I am very excited to one day, hopefully, working with both of you. Again, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We are going to either answer them in the chat, or we'll answer them online. No matter what platform you're on, we can see them. So just ask us any questions. We're running into maybe about 7 more minutes. So I have like 2 more things, but I really want you guys to talk about your next collaboration that's coming up.
Mm-hmm. Is that it's a play called Nothing Nothing, and it's it's actually because of Troy, our last play. The women in the homeless women audience really responded to the love story in it, and there was a love story between the neighbor, who was a Black woman who was a single mother, and her postman, who was Mexican from LA. And seeing that love story on stage is not something we see often, the love between our own communities, and exploring that more, and dispelling the myths behind women of color and love, so that's the play that I'm giving so much energy towards, and currently applying for funding, and also seeking. I'm not someone, I have to be honest with you and all of our viewers out there, that I'm newer to the grant world of kind of going in, and really it's still hard for me to ask for money. I still keep going, how can I do this with myself? What can I create that's going to make something? And I can still be a leader in this. But I'm humbling myself, and saying, this is not about me. This is about my organization, the artists involved. And I'm desperate to dive back into that world. And Christopher, I really hope that you will be available at the time. And we're probably going to check your schedule well in advance, and hopefully I'll be able to make it so that we can have you do it, work around your schedule some too.
No, likewise. And Elisa, I think you mentioned this to me a couple of weeks ago about this next collaboration, and hearing that story that you just described, both in the email and now vocally here, I was so excited. I want to hear that story. It was so good. The little snippets we got in Troy, that is worth putting in its own play and seen on stage. So I'm excited for that story to manifest.
Yes. And like I said before, like the shelters that we partnered with were really excited to come back and partner with us again. And again, it's, so funny because this is a good story. You'll love this one, Yolanda. Somebody had said, one of the administrators at one of the shelters said, we've gotten tickets from for the big theaters in LA, but the last play we got free tickets for, it was about, Idina Menzel was on stage and it was about plastic surgery, and our audience couldn't really relate to this. I said, what? But no, this is about, it's not just about like, I'm going to have, homeless women at my theater seeing our plays that we normally do. It's about showing their stories on the stage and really, servicing that community that way. I chose to, and I'm sure most of us chose to be theater artists when we got to see a production and get touched personally by seeing our story, something in the story we saw on stage connected to us. So that's how you infuse the passion of theater to people. That's how you share it with people. But yes, it would definitely not be a play about plastic surgery starring Idina Menzel and Hero. Not for me.
Not for you. For somebody else, maybe.
I think my associate artistic director saw that play and actually enjoyed it. But again, it's not what I do.
Okay, well, as we wrap up, any other last minute advice or words of wisdom, affirmations, anything else you want to share with our audience this evening?
One thing I'll share, because I wish I would have heard it sooner from my mentors and just from other artists. For anyone, out there who is just starting out, getting started, thinking about pursuing theater, I will say this one thing, and this is something I took. I don't remember who said it to me. I wish I did, but pursue your dreams fearlessly. I think that's the best way to start out and to get started. Just go with it. You're passionate about it. Don't let anyone tell you it's not what you should be doing, because if you want to be doing it, your voice deserves to be heard and you should be doing it. So don't be afraid to just pursue it and be a theater artist.
I think the words that keep resonating in my mind is we're all a work in progress. We are all a work in progress. And be kind to ourselves and gentle with ourselves and continue to grow and put beauty out into the earth.
Yeah, those are great words to end this on. I'm going to ask that you two stick around for a bit after this, but we are going to wrap up. I won't say early because we only have 2 minutes left. But again, thank you, Elisa, and thank you, Christopher, for this engaging, thought-provoking conversation.
Thank you.
Our next one will be February the 11th, and we will chat with Alejandra Cisneros and Anthony Allegra. Collaboration Conversations is supported by the members of USITT and the Tanisha Jefferson Fund for Inclusion. If you would like to support our efforts, please consider a gift at www.usitt.org/donate, or consider joining us at www.usitt.org/join. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have the rest of your wonderful evening, and we will see you in February.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Gracias. Thank you.